Welcome back to EWTN's coverage of the Synod on the Family, live from Rome. I have the pleasure of welcoming my next guest, Cardinal George Pell from Australia, who, besides being a Synod Father and the moderator of English Circle A, he lives and works in Rome as the Vatican's prefect of their finance office. Your Eminence, welcome to the program.
Good evening. Thank you. I'm very pleased to be present.
Well, we have the bells chiming behind us for St. Peter's Dome. That's usually our sign that we're back from commercial. We're so happy to have you and this
Good.
beautiful backdrop.
It's a great place.
It is.
In front
yeah.
of St. Peter's.
Now, last night, I just wanted to start off saying, we know you've been working around the clock, but last night, didn't all the Synod Fathers get out late? Something like 7:30? That's the latest you've worked so far.
We did.
Yeah.
We had the reports from the groups.
Right.
And then we had the first round of voting to set up the new council for the Synod.
Okay, so that's what took so long. And then I like how when they have a day off from meetings, they call it, in Italian, they call it vacanza, which is anything but. So you don't have vacanza days, really, do you?
Well, no, not at this stage.
Not at this stage.
That's right.
We're in the last week, the most important week, the drafting of the final document. We
That's
read
right.
your summaries today in the small discussion groups. What was the point that you really wanted to make in your small group discussion as you presented it?
Well, I think we've made a lot of good points.
Yes, yeah.
And in all the groups, especially in our, I thought it was a very good report. We wanted to stress very obviously the centrality of the family, children as well as parents, that Christ's way of looking after the family is the best way, and that I think we need some clear teaching. There's been on one or two small points, overwhelmingly there's unanimity.
Is there? Okay.
Yeah, on most points.
Okay.
On one or two points there are differences, and I hope the Synod will make some clear recommendations to the Holy Father for him to consider.
You made some points to the Holy Father. There was a letter drafted by 13 cardinals. You've spoken openly about this,
Sure.
as everybody knows. What was the thought behind that? You know, you wanted to, before the Synod even got started, you wanted to tell the Holy Father what?
Well, first of all, I'd like to say, as they say, I believe in South America, it was a storm in a glass of water.
Right.
In my part of the world, we say a storm in a teacup. Mind you, there were 13 very senior cardinals from all over the world. Cardinal Napier, I think, has explained it best. He pointed out that last time the interim report was released to the press before it was given to the fathers. And Edward Penton has published a book pointing out some of the interesting factors about last year's Synod. I'm not sure to what extent they've been refuted. And
Right.
we didn't want any similar misunderstandings this time, and the Holy Father reassured us. He said there'd be no manipulation. Cardinal Baldessari said that we would vote number by number, paragraph by paragraph, and the Holy Father said doctrine won't be touched. So our concerns were substantially answered.
And it wasn't that it was presented, I think, in the media as something kind of secret, but no, the Holy Father has invited all of you participating in the Synod. We're brothers. Let's have open discussion. Isn't this part of it?
Yeah, but this was a private letter.
Right, a private letter, but you felt free
to do it.
Under
And
his
the Pope is a very good listener.
Of
The Pope
course,
has
yeah.
encouraged discussion, and part of the role of cardinals is to tell the Pope what people are thinking. And there was no hint of any disobedience or rebellion. He gets letters all the time from cardinals and many other people.
Yeah, and I think I was so glad that he addressed those concerns immediately at the
He
opening
did.
of the Synod, and
did.
it got off on a great foot. And there seems to be a lot of collegiality this time around.
They're all...
No shenanigans. We can't tell on the outside anyway if there are, but...
Well, I mean, synods are always interesting.
Interesting, okay.
It's been a wonderful church experience. I mean, the presence of the lay couples has, not surprisingly, introduced a marvellous dimension because, and one of the aims of the Synod is to support all those Catholic families who are working so hard to do the right thing. Perhaps not succeeding completely. It's not nowhere is there heaven on earth, but we want to commend them. And from some of the couples, we heard about, one mother in Africa who had her husband and 8 children slaughtered.
Oh, no.
We heard about the struggles in the communist era in Romania.
Right.
And these are beautiful and inspiring stories.
It should be inspirational to all of us, shouldn't it?
They
It's not just about
are.
divorce and remarriage. There are families
No,
literally being torn apart by war.
That's right.
And
Divorce and remarriage is a very small
small.
part
Yeah, it's
of
important,
the
but
synod,
small, sure.
because the number of people who divorce and want to get remarried is not enormous, and of those who get remarried and want to go to communion, that's a smaller number, and the number of those who want the church to officially endorse this is probably smaller again. What is, I think, fundamentally at issue is whether we have a confidence in the Word of God that's come to us through the Scriptures, through the Magisterium, whether we believe that the mercy of God is truly there in the beautiful teaching of our Lord about the cross not being heavy, and in some of his hard teachings.
Yes.
And Jesus is very explicit on adultery and on divorce and remarriage.
And
very explicit, and I think all the fathers in the synod acknowledge this.
Okay, I want to talk about the final document that we're preparing as we speak, the commission that was appointed by Pope Francis to do this. Some have expressed concern over who was appointed to that drafting commission. Are you concerned at all?
Well, the Holy Father has said there'll be no manipulation, and the synod, some members of that committee, speaking I'm sure for everyone, have pointed out that they will faithfully represent the views that were presented by the fathers of the synod, and that's all we want.
And if not, you'll see it and you'll get to vote on it.
We'll get to vote on it.
And you have a voice. That's good, and we can't wait to see what's in it. We hope to get our hands on it. Do you think it'll come out Saturday night? Do you think we'll get it that quickly? Nobody knows. So.
No, nobody knows.
Yeah.
It's very difficult to keep things private in Rome. Now, whether there'll be 1 or 2 controversial issues which will enable the clarity of church teaching to be clearly established, some people say there will be. I really don't know. At this stage, it's always hazardous to try to prophesy.
Well, what if there are no changes? Do you think people will be disappointed after all of this? And,
well, no, you can't say there are no changes.
Okay.
Because already there have been changes in decentering the annulment procedures. That's so that they become the same criteria, equally just, but they're cheap and faster. That's already a significant development, but with the teachings of Jesus, see, we can't do better.
Right, exactly.
You might say we're stuck with Jesus, and I'm very happy to be in that situation.
That's wonderful. Pope Francis, as you mentioned, spoke of this decentralization, just which means a lot of these decisions will be made at the local level, local bishops' conferences? Pastoral decisions?
They'd have to be pastoral decisions. Doctrine is one. There are many theologies, but there's one set of doctrines, and the successor of Peter gives the tick for those. There are 10 commandments. They're not going to be 9 here and 11 somewhere else. There are 7 sacraments. There are a couple of the Apostles' Creed, the Nicene Creed. These
doctrine's not nationalized. No, it's one.
No, well, that's Ecclesia Catholica. Catholic in Greek means universal. It doesn't mean continental or national. And Cardinal Lorenzo said very beautifully, you can't nationalize right and wrong.
Very good to remember. Your name came up today again during the press conference, and it was in terms of an article that appeared in an Italian newspaper.
I think it was in Figaro, wasn't
Figaro,
it?
or Foglio, or one of those.
Oh, in Foglio.
And it was something that you had said. There's a Casperian, which means Cardinal Casper kind of a camp, versus a Ratzinger, Cardinal Ratzinger, let's say, more
that was in
way
the
of thinking. Yeah,
that was in a French paper.
For a French paper, okay, because that's making headlines, and he even came up at the press conference. What?
Well, I don't know whether it's making headlines, but Cardinal Marx has now explained that there's no contrast between the Casper camp and Benedict XVI, and I find that it's a very pleasant surprise, and it's a welcome development.
I think it's a surprise.
He explained, but he explained to us there was no such contrast. So, I mean, that's good, isn't it?
Yeah, we hope. We hope that that's true. Mercy and truth, that's been a theme that's come up. So this is, I think, where the rubber hits the road, as we say. We want to be merciful to people in various situations with bringing the fullness of truth,
Well, we have to be merciful. The Church is called mother and teacher. Mm-hmm. Now, a good mother grieves when any of her children are suffering.
Yeah.
But a good mother also practices preventive medicine. She knows that too much sugar is not good for your health. And if somebody falls sick, or perhaps through misadventure or something like that, she doesn't want her other children to have to suffer in the same way.
Okay.
So, as I said, she practices preventive medicine, and so does the Church. God's mercy is a great mystery, and I'm quite confident that if we follow Christ's teaching, in the long run, we experience His mercy most completely. And it's always a call to conversion. We're all sinners, we're all very imperfect, we're called to be better.
We have about 30 seconds. What would be just one message to people at home watching right now? Because so many families watch us.
Yes.
Any message that you would want to give to them?
Yes, all those good families, all those imperfect families, to people who are suffering. There's no pearl unless there's a bit of a grit in the oyster. And the teachings of Christ are the best medicine, the best recipe for all of us in our daily living. And, I think the Catholic Church is a pretty wonderful community. The spirit of fraternity here in the Synod is wonderful. The group in which I participated, I've been to about 7 synods. It was the best group I've ever participated in. It was a wonderful experience.
Well, thank you for leaving us with that wonderful message of hope and happiness during the Synod. Thank you for being on the program, Your Eminence.
Pleasure.
Thank you.